Hey everybody, it's Tripl-L, and now let's talk My Hero Academia, chapter 168, otherwise known as the chapter Aoyama reveals his true nature. Yeah, okay, hey guys, so let's talk about this chapter. It's out, and guys, I can legitimately say, I was laughing. This is like the first time I've been in stitches over My Hero Academia, and it's just, there's a level of novelty that Hero Academia just transcended with this chapter. I'm so happy for it. It was so funny. Man. Alright, so Aoyama is going to be the center point of discussion because who knew that we were going to get such a funny chapter plus such a heartwarming chapter right through the middle. So we're going to talk about that. Although there's one little bit I know I'm going to leave out because in the midst of Aoyama conspiracy time, it's just in the middle of it, and it was it feels like it's a treasure trove of information, and it's mostly that little bit with the kids in the class. So I'm just going to cover that one real quick before I forget about it, because I want to give the characters all their fairness. So the biggest thing that I take away from that segment with all the B-list characters, that's not the best way to describe them, Ochiko's in there too, but was them talking about that site called Lurkers, right? And it was a rumor site, and then you have Ashido talking about, like, you know, we can be team-ups and all that kind of stuff. Very interesting on Ashido's part, saying that she wants to be a team-up, and her team pretty much got formed out of Uraraka, Sero, Koda, Shoji, Jiro. Yeah. And then of course you had the comic relief for Mineta and Kaminari. That part was just interesting. I mean, I really enjoy seeing the kids acting like students. I enjoy seeing them in a safe environment because at this point we have a nice cast of characters that we have a good idea of. I think a lot of people would be rewarded just seeing what the characters are like. So little moments like these I very much appreciate, but I look at that sequence and I just want to think that there's something in there that's important for the future. Whether or not it's going to be foreshadowing somewhere, or whether or not Lurkers might be a plot point later on in the future. I mean, at this point, what the author ultimately did is that he gave us an element of the Hero Academia world. It's a question of whether or not that element's going to be used. It may not be used in the manga. It may be used in one of the other materials, such as the novels, or maybe even an audio CD. Who knows? It's just little things like these just stand out in what was otherwise a very centered or focused chapter. And after that, I'm already starting to forget, we had the whole power sequence. The power sequence was good because it demonstrated two things. That being Kirishima's progress versus Izuku's apparent lack of progress. Thing is, I feel Izuku is being kind of hard on himself on this one. He's talking about how he couldn't really... Well, he tells Bakugo he couldn't get that much stronger, but I think using 20% without breaking, or like on the verge of breaking, I think that's a big improvement over 8%. That said, Izuku does give his reasoning. It's Shizaki was stronger, and that was unfortunate for him. The only other thing I want to really take note of for that segment is just the conversation and the dialogue between Bakugo and Izuku. This is much more supportive than the past. I enjoy it. I'm happy. And it's just, it's nice. It's nice that we have people talking like people and not just yelling at each other. Well, it's really only one person that yells and the other person has to respond by yelling. But you guys get what I mean. It was one of those feel-good sequences. Really feel good. And then, yeah, let's talk about Aoyama. Alright guys, like... It's one thing to say in the last chapter, oh yeah, it's gonna be a joke. We're gonna find it's gonna be a joke and it's gonna be just the funniest thing ever. It's one thing to have that idea, and then it's another thing to come into a chapter with macaroni art on the balcony. Or sorry, not macaroni art, cheese art on the balcony spelling out the message of I know. It's just, it was so funny. That's alright. It's just funny. That whole sequence, I was very happy. I think Izuku being awake for it is what really pushed it over the top, because it's just like, what the heck is happening here, man? Oh man. But yeah, once Aoyama just kind of stood there and left, I was like, yeah, okay. That made sense. But then when you look at the I'm gonna call it macaroni art. The macaroni art, it was just like, oh great, this is gonna be excellent. excellent. I'm gonna give props to the author though, because as we're going through this whole thing, I'm thinking like once you have that cheese art coming out into the balcony, it's just there's no way this man is an evil man. He's just a cheese lover at that point. But then you go through and like I wavered a little bit in my convictions, just a little bit after Aoyama finished talking about his situation with his quirk, which I found really interesting, and that's another really good world element. We'll talk about it towards the end. But yeah, him talking about his situation with Kirk, then you all of a sudden see that his face is downtrodden. I'm like, all right, author, like you're throwing a lot of things here that's making me like, I don't know, man. And then the next page is a poop joke. I laughed. That was great. That was hilarious. I didn't think it would be that bad for the poor boy. Oh man. Oh man, that sucked for him. But it was so good for us. I'm happy. I'm happy that happened. I'm really happy that happened. I want to see if I can like just point out any more like funny moments before we go get into the seriousness that was Aoyama's issue. No, just I want to congratulate the author on some really choice pictures of Izuku's face. They were just really hilarious. Aoyama in general being funny. Okay, cool. So we'll talk about his problems. So first off, when he's like before he talks to Izuku about that, he gives us a showing with naval laser in his most eccentric way possible, with his face still, his hands, his face resting on his hands, and you can see the man's trembling because he's forcing out everything he's got in his little belly. And that sequence again, like hilarious on Aoyama's part, and the naval laser buffet also pretty cool. What I was most impressed by though was his precision, shortening his laser and making a message called "Still Water Runs Deep." Or yeah, Still Water Runs Deep, that's the one. And that was hilarious as well. But that's also a degree of control that I did not think was possible for Aoyama. But as we saw, that degree of control comes with a great price. When he starts talking about incompatible bodies, that was interesting. I didn't think his laser was at a point that it leaks out. And I love the use of the word leak in this one, because we see later that things do leak out for the poor boy. Anyway, it was interesting. Aoyama was motivated from a place of commonality with Izuku. As we saw in the chapter, he was saying, well, I felt you and I were the same people that can't control our quirks. For Aoyama, like the idea of a laser leaking out, that's dangerous. No wonder he has to wear the belt. And then his plight that he was saying that, as a kid, this is just how it works. It just lets me see the character in a new light. Well, not really that much. I guess just like the idea of not being able to control something as destructive as a naval laser. It's kind of scary. But then he mentions that a doctor officially told him that his body and his quirk just aren't compatible. And that's an interesting idea, right? Like your quirk is part of your body. Like what would be the equivalent of that? Like saying like your kidney isn't compatible with your body? Like is your well, I don't know. There might be enough cases where a kidney could become incompatible with the body. I don't know enough about that. But it's a weird concept that a doctor would say it as well. The idea of incompatibilities with bodies. Although, like, to what degree is shit incompatible, right? Like, Eraserhead has his quirk, and then he also suffers from dry eye. Would you argue that that's an incompatible body? Maybe someone who has really, really lubricated eyeballs would be a better user of Eraserhead's quirk? Is that what is? How far does incompatibility? How far does that idea go? Or is it just like the quirk's design? Or maybe like, Aoyama has irritable bowels, so him using naval laser, that I could see that being incompatibility. But still, like, just the idea of what Aoyama was saying about incompatible quirks was interesting. And then he goes on to mention the aspect of being unable to control it, which he touched upon it before, but it's interesting to hear this coming from someone who isn't Izuku. We know that Izuku's control issue is because he's only had it for maybe a year at most. Aoyama's a different situation. Like when you look at these two kids here, Aoyama's in a worse situation than Izuku, because Izuku still has the luxury of time to figure out that quirk. Aoyama has had it since he was a kid. He might never actually get to control it. Anyway, you know, Aoyama definitely won me over with all this. He brought up some things that were interesting to think about, and just ultimately how he saw that Izuku was like him and saw that Izuku was getting impatient. And he wanted to support him because most likely Aoyama has these feelings too, and he has to deal with it. Like he says he loves surprises. Who knows, that might be a call for help that he also wants to have a nice surprise. But that said, Aoyama and Izuku seem to be better friends. And at the end, we have the narration of Aoyama-kun and I became good friends. And it ends off with Aoyama giving him cheese. Very feel good. And a stark contrast to what last chapter's ending was. But yeah, overall, that was a worthwhile chapter. I really enjoyed it. That was a full chapter. Give us the Aoyama stuff and then also give us like little bits with the other classmates. I really enjoyed that. Now I'm kind of hoping, and this may not be a popular thing depending on how hardcore it goes with the author, but I am sort of hoping that we get more spotlight chapters right now. Like we had Todoroki and Bakugo. I'll take that as their spotlight when we had them going for the little provisional license thing. But I would love it if we have like just a bunch of chapters dedicated to slice of life elements and just the lower ranks of class 1A. The problem with that, of course, is that it's going to slow things down. We're going to be there for like maybe 5 weeks unless they make some progress in other satisfying plots. That said, it'd be really cool to have this. Right off the bat, if we got a chapter dedicated to Shoji and Koda, like heck, man, I don't even need them to be separate chapters. I can just have them in one chapter. If we got that, that would be amazing. Man, give Sero and Ashiro a bit of a spotlight. I'd be cool with that too. Maybe Shoji and Jiro. Pretty much anyone that Ashiro mentioned in that panel, I feel it would be fair to just give them a small chapter, just so that we can at least enjoy the characters, or at least in Koda's case, Koda we have a good sense of. In Sato's case, at least like find out what makes the guy tick besides cooking. I think it'd just be cool. Heck, if we even do just like a class 1A centered chapter, that would be pretty nice. If we do a chapter a day in the life of class 1B, also very nice. It's just at this point, it's hard to tell where we're going from here, and it would just be really nice and cool if we got to see little elements that make up this class. I'd be really into it. Now let's see, any other last things I want to say? Oh yes, I want to update my current runnings for traders. My number 1 running is someone in the support department. My number 2 is Vlad, the teacher from class 1B. My number 3 is Toru, and my number 4 is now Aoyama. You might be saying, why Aoyama? Well, now I'm in the case, well, he made me feel really good, so naturally, because he's good, I have to believe he's a traitor. No, that was a total joke, but now I'm just going to keep it there because I think it's funny. And because Aoyama's mood just turns on a dime like that. I don't know, man. I can't trust him. Anyway, jokes aside. Yeah, overall, chapter 168. Very funny. I think it's my favorite chapter of the 100. No, that's a lie. Mirio is still pretty good. But in terms of slice of life chapters, or like the chiller chapters, this is definitely standing like a step and above. But anyway, guys, thanks for watching. Until next time, I hope you have a great day, and let me know what you thought in the comments down below. And yeah, till next time.